The National Hot Rod Association 16-event, $15 million Winston Drag Racing Series began 6 weeks ago with the Chief Auto Parts Winter Nationals in Pomona, California. Top Fuel World Champion Dick LaHaye picked up where he left off last year, defeating arch rival Joe Amato in the final round. Dale Boley upset all the touring pros in funny car with a 5-year-old Southern California-based machine. Butch Leal started the Pro Stock year out right in his Trans Am, defeating first-time finalist Mark Howick. Today we're in Gainesville, Florida on a perfect day for race number 2, the 19th annual Motorcraft Quality Parts Gatornationals. Hello everyone, I'm Steve Evans. As you may recall, this Gainesville quarter mile has a very strong performance heritage. It was here that Joe Amato became the first driver to ever top 260 miles per hour. And Don Garlits smashed through the 270 mile per hour barrier. Well, already this weekend there has been some stunning performances. To bring us up to speed on all of that, here's Paul Page.
Well, Steve, you know, records are something that are supposed to last a day, a couple weeks, maybe a couple of years, but that is certainly not true here at the Gatornationals. For example, in top fuel qualifying, Frank Bradley set a new top speed record of 286.1, and that may not last the day because Eddie Hill is looking to back up a 288 mile an hour top speed. In trying to do so, in the first round, he came up against the reigning world champion Dick LaHaye. The speed, but he ran a 5:08, the lowest ET of the meet. Steve talked to him at the other end.
We beat the man, didn't we?
You did.
Did
the
we
world
beat him
champion.
Fair and square? I guess we did.
Absolutely. A 5:08?
5:08.
Amazing.
Oh, man. Here we go. More points for us. We're looking good.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
In the meantime, in funny car, John Force set a new ET of a 5:36, but that didn't last very long either because Kenny Bernstein, the reigning world champion in funny car, dropped that one down to a 5:33.
The quickest time ever for a funny car at 5:33, a new record. Congratulations.
Oh, thanks, Steve. That's great. I tell you, you couldn't ask for it at a better time at Gainesville on a beautiful sunny day. Armstrong and the guys put it right on the button.
Well, apparently all the new things that you guys have been trying, and you've struggled a bit, be frank about it, has all paid off today.
We have been struggling, there's no question, but the last couple of weeks, Dale's just been working harder and harder. We made a lot of runs on the car, which tells you which way to go, and once he dials it in, you know how he gets. He just puts his thumb right on it, and right now it looks good. Let's hope he can keep it going.
And when they run that efficiently, they're even easier to drive.
Easier to drive and easier on pieces also at the same time, but when they're not that way, they're a handful.
Again, congratulations.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
And it got worse for John Force. In first round, he broke and was beaten by Tom Hoover. But take a look at this. This is Bob Glidden's #1 pro stocker. The reigning world champion for 23 straight events has been the #1 qualifier, but not here at the Gatornationals. That honor goes to Warren Johnson. And in first round, Bob Glidden was beaten by Kenny Delco. The car is already on the trailer. Bob, what's going on?
Wish I could tell you, Paul. We came here thinking we were prepared. Had a hard time getting down the track. Made it a last effort qualifying attempt and got in finally by the skin of our teeth. I think we ended up 11th or 12th qualifier. This pro stock is simply getting tough. The bump was within 6/100ths of a second from top to bottom, and we're simply confused.
And if we know Bob Glidden, all of this should only double his resolve to win. Now, over in the staging lanes is Don Garlits. Don, what's coming up?
Well, Paul, one of the most exciting races in pro stock is coming up. Winter Nationals champion Butch Leo, driving the Rod Shop car, is going to be faced with the #1 qualifier, Warren Johnson. So fans, hold on to your seats. In funny car, Kenny Bernstein with that remarkable 533 should go right on into the third round. But waiting for him later will be Oswald in the Candies and Hughes car, who qualified with a very strong 540. So they can step up anytime. Top Fuel, now that's another story. Eddie Hill with that fantastic 508. He should win that round. Joe Amato, he was doing very well, 517, but he's got Gene Snow, who ran a 521, so he could get beaten.
And it's time now for round number 2 of the fastest accelerating vehicles in all the world, Top Fuel dragsters. And who better to help us call the action than 3-time NHRA Top Fuel World Champion, Big Daddy Don Garlits. Joe Amato versus Gene Snow. Don?
Yeah, that's a real race for you, Steve. And like I said, 517 to 521, that's anybody's race. And Gene Snow's not bad about getting off the line, but of course, Amato is the master. I think he has the lowest reaction time in Top Fuel in the history of the sport without a red light.
There's always been a lot of grandstands here at Gainesville, and they're all still here today. But there's a brand new one that is 4 stories high and seats over 12,000 people. And I'll tell you, Paul Page, there is not room for one more fan in this place.
All jammed in to watch this run as Gene Snow of Fort Worth, Texas. He has one national victory to his credit. He faces Joe Amato from Old Fort, Pennsylvania. He is the defending Top Fuel champion. Now, he got here by beating this man, Miami's Darrell Gwynn. And it was a pretty unusual race. Now, that is Gwynn in the near lane, Amato over in the far lane. And look at Amato. He comes off the line with a terrific hole shot. Now, Gwynn was really on the fly, and Gwynn had a faster 514 to the 517 of Joe Amato, but the hole shot won it for Amato.
And here in second round action, Gene Snow on the far lane, Joe Amato in the near lane. Don Garlits already commented on the razor-sharp reaction times of Joe Amato. Gene Snow, also a veteran driver. Amato will be hard-pressed to put much of a hole shot on Gene Snow. Amato, Tim Richards, the crew chief on this car, has built tremendous horsepower into it. And it is Gene Snow away first by a tick of the clock. But here comes the power of Amato. What a drag race. The computer says Joe Amato, Don Garlits.
That's right. Gene Snow gets off the line first, but Amato catches him with that Tim Richards horsepower down at the end.
Joe Amato with a 520, 272 to a losing 523, 267 miles an hour.
These are the kind of races, Paul, that the fans pay the money to see because it was a car race from beginning to end.
You couldn't ask for better drag racing, and it's happening here at the Gator Nationals.
Well, Joe Amato survives another tough round of racing. In round 1, you had to outdrive Darrell Gwynn. Here you had to outrun Gene Snow. 520 to a 523 for Gene.
I know it was going to be a dogfight, to survive here. Everybody's running real good. And Timmy told me, the car is going to be real close. So it's another round, and all we can do is take them one at a time here.
Well, your reactions on the starting line have been a big asset to this team.
Well, Gene Snow's the guy who taught me that lesson about a year ago. He beat me at a race which really affected us for the World Championship. So since then, I've been really stepping on my driving because I know that's the difference. The cars are running so close, Steve, that the drivers that make the difference here. So you have to really press yourself. And I'm really excited about this race.
I can tell. Gene Snow offers his congratulations.
Wait till Tim Richards shows Joe his time slip and finds that Snow actually beat him off the line.
Back at the starting line, a whale of a pair. There is Mount Clemens, Michigan, Shirley Muldown, a 3-time world champion. She has an interesting opponent, a rookie driving in his first Top Fuel race ever, Bobby Baldwin.
Bobby Baldwin from Pomona, California, was a longtime spectator, just like these people, at the Winter Nationals. He got the urge. His landscaping business, heavy equipment operations have enabled him, Don Garlits, to afford to race one of these cars. Imagine what's going through his mind as he pairs up with a 3-time world champion, the first race he enters.
Well, it's probably, I would say, the biggest race of his career at this point, and he's thinking in the other lane. is there any way that I could possibly beat Shirley? Has my crew chief given me enough power?
Shirley Muldowney, Mount Clemens, Michigan, recently wed to her crew chief, Ron Tobler. And there is Bobby Baldwin, Pomona, California. And Paul Page, this has got to be a moment he will never forget, no matter how long he races.
No, it's going to go down in his personal scrapbook forever. Now, he's schooled in Frank Hawley's school held here at this track. So he has a lot of experience on this particular drag strip. If there is a bump out there, he's going to know where it is. And you can imagine his heart is just pumping away.
They staged very carefully in those electronic beams. Shirley Muldowney has inched in. She is now ready. Bobby Baldwin, the rookie in the far lane, he is ready. The Christmas tree counts down. It is Baldwin off and going. Shirley Muldowney brings something right off the starting line, Don Garlits. What could it have been?
Well, the way that car stopped, if it broke a drivetrain, she's got tremendous reflexes. I think probably the engine shut off.
A 5:36 for Bobby Baldwin at 268 miles per hour.
Back in the pit area, Jim Head is getting his funny car ready. Remember, he was the runner-up at the Winter Nationals, and he is scheduled to meet Tom Hoover in round 2 of funny car. We go to the far end, and Steve Evans.
In his first ever day of Top Fuel drag racing, Bobby Baldwin goes to the semifinal round. Great job.
Isn't that something?
How did it feel when you looked over and saw a legend, the pink car, the 3-time world champion? How did you feel?
I didn't even look over there. I just looked at what I was supposed to do, and that was it.
That's the way you were taught when you went to the drag racing school right here in Gainesville.
Yep, run your own race, and that's it. Don't worry about everything else. Just what's in your lane, what you have control of, nothing else.
5:36.
All right. Yeah, that's
Bobby Baldwin. Is he having some fun? A dream comes true.
Up against a 3-time world champion at 1. More Top Fuel coming up.
Here in Gainesville, Florida for the NHRA Motorcraft Gatornationals. I'm Steve Evans along with Paul Page and Don Garlits, and it's time for race number 3 in the second round of Top Fuel Eliminator. In the near lane will be Frank Bradley. Finally, after all these years, a new car, Don Garlits, and it's made a big difference for him.
Yes, it has. He built that new car this winter, 300 inches long, and I'll tell you, he's been getting off the line real good with it. You know, Frank has been suffering from a lot of wheel spin in the past, and I think this car is about solved it for him.
Now, his opponent will be Bill Mullins from Pelham, Alabama. Mullins using the canopy cover that my friend Don Garlits conceived of a few years ago. Oh, and not a good burnout, Big Daddy.
Well, the reason for that is, so he's high gear only, so he doesn't want to heat the tires up too much. He wants just a little bit of slippage as he moves off the line.
52-year-old Bill Mullins has been drag racing for years and years. He won the Spring Nationals 2 years ago. He faces Frank Bradley, who set the new speed record here at 286.
Frank Bradley's engines have always been quick, but never particularly fast. Frank, a national record 286, those kind of speeds take a little getting used to, maybe?
Surprised me, I'll tell you. We came here, it's been a thrash all winter long. You know, we put a new trailer together, a new race car, and we put these heads on, and didn't really know what they were going to do. And the first day we kicked a rod out of one motor. It was just real lean, you know. It took so much more fuel, and I just kept stacking fuel pump on it and changing nozzles, and it just started coming around, started running pretty good.
Get your attention, huh?
Got my attention.
Now, Don Garlits, you're talking about high gear only in a car. What do you mean?
Well, Mullins has removed the 2-speed transmission from his car in an attempt to save weight and add more power. See, the transmission is supposed to take about 5% of the engine horsepower to pull it. So he's going to try to run without this 2-speed transmission.
A number of racers have talked about doing this. Bill Mullins is really the first to do it seriously. The engines make so much power now, the thinking is maybe you don't need that torque multiplication of a transmission. So that is Mullins, Alabama in the far lane. Frank Bradley, California in the near lane. The official speed record holder. Bradley carries the front wheels out at least 100 feet, and he will defeat Bill Mullins. Bradley at 524 to a 540. Great driving on Frank's part.
Well, if you notice the high gear only car, how it faltered in the middle of the course when the wheels really finally caught up, he just didn't have the torque to pull it.
In the meantime, back in the pit area, while we're watching Top Fuel, Tom Hoover is getting his funny car ready. He will meet Jim Head in round number 2, doing some final adjustments to the clutch and transmission and the plugs going into that engine. Meanwhile, on the line, here is Eddie Hill as he rolls up, ready to face Jack Ostrander in Top Fuel round number 2. Now, Eddie Hill has run a 288-mile-an-hour pass, but Don Garlits, he still doesn't have the record.
That's right, Paul. He must run within 1% of that 288 miles an hour for that to become an official NHRA record, because NHRA does not want any records in the books that are not accurate, such as could be caused by, say, a paper cup blowing through the lights or something of that nature.
Okay, let's go to the far end.
Frank Bradley, a nice 524, but the speed has kind of gone away. She settled down to like 275.
Yeah, I backed the motor up a little bit, trying to keep the piston damage down. We've been putting 2 or 3 pistons a run in it, and it's, figured we could make it by that one, but now I'm going to have to step on it for the next one, I'm afraid.
You'll sacrifice a few pistons to win the semifinal.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Okay, Frank Bradley.
Bradley moves ahead now to the semifinal round. There's Ursi Hill as she is pointing to her husband, Eddie Hill, saying bring it over a little bit to this side as she finds exactly the right place, hoping that he will back up that speed record.
Eddie Hill, fast on the asphalt, fast on the liquid quarter mile. Still holds the speed record in boat racing at 2:29. Jacko Strander, just an amazing team out of Pontiac, Michigan. We've got a sportsman racers in a professional category, and the job they do down Garlits is phenomenal.
Yes, it is. That's an older car, and you'll notice the difference in the technology just looking at the two settings side by side there.
Now, Eddie Hill had to change engines between round number 1 and round number 2. Nervous time with that crew, Paul Page, wondering if it will perform.
And Jack Ostrander got past Gary Ormsby to come into this round. Look at Eddie Hill. He just rockets down that drag strip. A 5.10, 285 to a losing 537, 274.
Hill's 285, still not enough to back up the 288.
Well, the semifinal pairings are set. It will be Eddie Hill still trying to back up that record against Frank Bradley, the man who took his record away. In the other half of the semifinals, it will be Joe Amato over the rookie Bobby Baldwin. Do we maybe have a Cinderella story brewing here? Back in the pit area, Joe Amato accomplishing some tasks on his top fuel drag street. Let's Tim Richards worry about making the horsepower, but Joe takes care of mixing the fuel and packing the parachute. I think more to keep his mind off the weight before the next round. All right, it will soon be time. It is time for Pro Stockers. These are the factory hot rods. Their horsepower is built on the dyno back in their development shops. When they come to the racetrack, they have to pretty well know they have the combination to win.
The Gainesville Raceway, action already underway in the NHRA Motorcraft Gator Nationals. We're in Pro Stock now. Round number 2. When we started, we had 65 Pro Stockers. We're down to just 8. Warren Johnson applies the power, spins the wheels, and cleans those rear tires up. He's ready to face Butch Leal.
It's amazing how fast your fortunes can turn in this sport. Last year, Warren Johnson couldn't qualify at Gainesville. This year, he was the quickest of them all, the #1 qualifier. Butch Leal, who won the Winter Nationals just a few weeks ago, as we said earlier, he struggled in qualifying and barely got into the quick 16. In fact, he was the 13th qualifier.
But Butch Leal is getting his momentum going now, and I'll bet you this is going to be one of the better races of the day.
So Warren Johnson from Duluth, Georgia in the Oldsmobile, a longtime veteran, will face the defending champion, Butch Leal from Blacklick, Ohio, in his Pontiac.
You would normally not expect these two to get together this early in eliminations. It's only happening because of Leal's poor qualifying performance. Leal in the far lane, in the Trans Am, Warren Johnson in the near lane, staged and ready. Reaction time so important in Pro Stock, considering the field is so compact, qualified so tightly together. Let's see who indeed gets away first. Boy, I couldn't tell. It looks like one clutch came out to activate both cars, but Butch Leal with an early lead. Butch Leal, Warren Johnson by 1/100th of a second. Butch Leal 7:45 to Johnson 7:46. You called that, Don Garlits. It was the race of the day so far.
You bet. That Butch Leal, don't let that 13th qualifier fool you. And Warren wasn't thinking that either. He makes him plenty nervous. Watch very closely now. The patented Leo lead. He's out front. And from this point on, if Warren's going to win, he's going to have to play catch-up. And that's plenty tough to do in Pro Stock when the fields are as tight as you just mentioned.
That's right. In Pro Stock at one time, you could afford to give away 2 or 3 hundredths on the line, but not anymore. Now, we said that Leal won by 1/100th. He did, but the hole shot exaggerates the margin of victory.
Well, you're in the winning ways, but a tough time getting this far.
Oh, I tell you, it's just tough out there. This track is just, it's coming and going. That time I had lane choice. I decided I'd get in the left lane, try it, and it still flapped the tires real hard. We're just going to have to make some more adjustments to get this thing down the track a little better.
Well, there's Butch Leal. He says that the way to win this thing is be a good soothsayer and predict the track.
Well, of course, lane choice goes to the quicker driver from the previous round. And here's a new face to our Diamond Peak coverage of NHRA Drag Racing. This is Carlos Gonzalez. He's from the Miami area, and you just saw him accomplishing a dry burnout, kind of a test of the starting line, Don.
That's exactly right. They give it everything they got in low gear, and that tells them how to leave when they're actually in the race.
Well, here's a fella in a Chevrolet Beretta who finished number 6 in the world last year, Joe Lapone Jr. from Pennsylvania.
And Joe Lapone is crew chief by Grumpy Jenkins, Mr. Chevrolet, long-time preparer of these magnificent cars. He faces Carlos Gonzalez from Miami. Now, Carlos has never been this far in a pro stock round.
That's right. This is only his second year of championship NHRA drag racing, but what a beautiful Trans Am automobile. He qualified well. His reaction times look good in round number 1. He's going to be a force to reckon with, this young man from Miami.
Yeah, you can't count out these new rookies because they've been putting away the old pros this year so far.
Well, that's true, and you never know how much drag racing they've been doing on a local level. You know, they could have been out there racing every Saturday night and Sunday for years, and you don't see them until they reach this level of competition with the wheels high in the air. Joe Lapone is long gone. We will not today know how good Carlos Gonzalez truly can be, because that car broke right off the starting line. Lapone, kind of a middle-of-the-road 754, 187-mile-per-hour run.
Good for Lapone, but, you know, Gonzalez is not feeling too good right now. I've been there plenty of times in front of all those people.
In the meantime, back in the pit area, Bobby Baldwin's machine being prepared. He will face Joe Amato in the semifinal round. And this is a 4-year-old Joe Amato car. So Joe will see one of his own when he comes up. Over in the funny car pit, Scott Coletta's machine being made ready. He will meet Mark Oswald in round 2 of funny car.
Notice these nitro engines use 2 spark plugs per cylinder, 16 plugs overall, double what you'd have in a pro stock car or a passenger car for that matter. Heating up the tires on the dry burnout, one of the top pro stockers in all the land. The Rear and Morrison Beretta from Arlington, Texas, Bruce Allen, the driver, and his competition will be Alban Gauthier from Montreal, Quebec, Canada. And this is the first time we have seen Alban in the last 5 or 6 years be quite this competitive.
In fact, you don't see many cars from Montreal down in Florida at all.
Well, sure you do, on I-75 that runs right by your museum. That's kind of why you built it there. Well, there's Alban, and he's hoping for big things today. Bruce Allen has won a number of races in this car, but has yet to win a world championship, and that is his goal. And Rear and Morrison have definitely given him the platform to do that with.
Bruce Allen in the Chevrolet inches up to the line now. Gauthier over on the far side. Both of them watching those lights. Coming away on the lights is so very important in the evenly matched pro stocks. Gauthier jumps it up to the line. A magnificent crowd watching here today. The stands absolutely jammed, and they're seeing a terrific lineup of pro stock.
Now, Bruce Allen has that big Rear and Morrison horsepower, legendary, as it were. Alban Gauthier formerly ran the Hemi motors when they were no longer competitive. Now he's gone to the General Motors product. Let's see what happens here. They are staged. They are ready. The RPM's at about 8,000. It is the Canadian off the mark first. He had a little bit of a hole shot, but the car veered to the left. He probably had to get off the throttle momentarily. Oh, boy. Bruce Allen, very quick. 744 to Alban Gauthier's 758. Allen with a speed of 188 miles per hour.
Gauthier got a very good light there with a 4:46 reaction time. Watch his car move as he comes off the line. That's the kind of starting that you need to win in pro stock.
But watch it move out of the groove there, Paul. Look, almost completely out of the black, losing a tremendous amount of time as Bruce Allen moves on down the racetrack to win the race. Notice a valiant try for the catch-up, but it just wasn't working out for Gauthier.
Steve Evans is with Bruce Allen.
Well, Bruce Allen, a 744 puts you into the semifinal round.
Track's getting a little tricky out there. It's, I don't know what it is, if it's too sticky or too loose. I think it's just a little too sticky for us.
The weather has gotten a good deal hotter. The sun is shining brightly. Maybe that has something to do with it.
Yeah, that plays havoc with the track. When you're used to nice, cool, overcast temperatures, the track stays pretty consistent. It's changing out there now.
As the weather heats up, your crew has to keep a good look at the carburation, jetting the car.
Yeah, these aren't as critical as a blown car, but you do have to keep be conscious of the weather, and if it gets a little overcast or if the temperature goes up, make a few little adjustments. Timing and jet makes a lot of difference.
Good job.
Thank you.
Bruce Allen's real expertise is chassis setup, drag racing, road racing, whatever. All right, here's one half of our next pair of pro stocks, the new car of Tony Christian. And speaking of new cars, earlier Paul Page had a look at a very special one.
Well, you know, it's been 10 years since we've seen Chrysler Corporation factory involvement in pro stock, but that's all changing now. This is Darrell Alderman's new mount from the Wayne County Speed Shop just outside of Detroit. And on the engine, well, the name is Dodge. Now, you might expect that this is a Hemi block, but it's not. What they've done is created a custom one-off of the old 440 block, and it is really working for them. First and only run here at the Gator Nationals, right off the trailer with a 747, 187 miles an hour. Now, that wasn't good enough to qualify against the 64 other pro stocks that are here at the Gator Nationals, but I think it does predict a great season for Darrell Alderman and Chrysler.
I'll say it does. That 747 in most cases would be enough to win the drag race, but not here this year at Gainesville. Here's the other half of this next pairing. It'll be Tony Christian versus Kenny Delco. And if you were paying attention earlier, you know it was Delco who put Bob Glidden, the world champion, on the trailer from Center Reach, New York. Big Tony Christian out of Sarasota, Florida. His best finish so far in big-time pro stock racing has been a runner-up. He hopes to cure that here today. But don't you know, Christian is looking over in that other lane and said, Kenny Delco beat who in the first round?
Yeah, well, you can bet the Florida fans are really pulling for Christian.
A slight advantage to Tony Christian off the mark. He gets a little out of the groove. The car starts to skate around at the finish line. Oh, boy. Talk about your squeakers. It is Kenny Delco. 740, a tremendous elapsed time over a losing 743 for Tony Christian, even though he got a bit out of shape.
Watch the front end on Tony Christian's car come up as he gets the starting line advantage. But the same thing happens to him that happened to Cartier earlier as a car moves over to the left and gets out of the groove, allowing Delco to pull ahead just about enough to win by a foot.
So Kenny Delco takes the win, and at this moment, he's at the far end with Steve Evans.
Well, this has been a very special racing day so far for Kenny Delco. Kenny, first you got around Bob Glidden in round one, and now a 740 disposes of Tony Christian.
Oh, wow, I can't believe it. We've been running real good lately, you know, with Bob Engel's motors and his Jerry Haas chassis. And these Pontiac Trans Ams just run, you know.
That's the quickest elapsed time of the round.
Yeah, I think I know the secret.
Okay, hang on to it.
Okay. See you next round, Al.
Yeah, he's not going to share that speed secret.
So Kenny Delco moves ahead as he receives a congratulations from Tony Christian. And we have the pairings now for the Pro Stock semifinals. Kenny Delco will face Butch Leal. Delco has a lane choice there. And Bruce Allen will take on Joe Lapone. Allen has lane choice. In the meantime, Eddie Hill still has the chance to back up that 288-mile-an-hour run. If it's going to happen, that's the engine that will do it. We'll be back with more from the Motorcraft Gator Nationals. We're back in Gainesville, Florida at the NHRA Motorcraft Gator Nationals, and we're ready for round number 2 of Funny Car as we take a look at Mark Oswald rolling forward, ready for his burnout, and he is set to face Scott Coletta. Look at the power of that magnificent machine as he cleans off the tires, checks the horsepower, and makes sure that everything is ready to go.
Mark Oswald, he faces Scott Coletta. Now, Scott Coletta is enjoying the best season of his entire career. Posted a whopping 276 miles an hour, top speed of the event for funny cars at the recent Winter Nationals in Pomona, California. And I think that perhaps Scott has figured he's on a roll today.
Well, he's up against the driver of this car, Mark Oswald. He was the number 4 qualifier and beat Bruce Larson to come into the second round, while Scott Coletta qualified 8th. He was up against Doc Holliday in round number 1, and Holliday had his problems against Coletta. Let's take a look at the action.
As the cars come down the drag strip, Coletta is out front, Holliday trailing behind, when obviously some mechanical problems began to happen. And watch the body on Holliday's car literally disintegrate before your eyes.
Surprisingly enough, he got the chutes out, he got the car stopped, and Doc Holliday was okay.
Well, Doc Holliday is out of the car and says that he's okay. That's the good news. That was a rather unusual incident.
the throttle stuck and it just wouldn't shut off. I finally had to reach over and hit the fuel shut off.
And that banged the blower?
Banged the blower and blew the body off, and that ran over the lights.
Well, you know, I know when you got on the center line, I guess you were fighting that stuck throttle.
Yeah, I was trying to pull the throttle back. Nothing was happening. I just finally reached over and hit the shut off. And the car was out of control, so there was really not much I could do with it.
We're glad to see you got it shut down.
You and me both.
Now, Doc Holliday was disqualified because the car, in the midst of all that, drifted across the center line. So Mark Oswald, the Candies and Hughes machine, inches up to the line, ready to take on Scott Coletta.
You know, Don Garlits, we say these machines make 2,500, 3,000 horsepower. What do you think?
Well, I think they do. You know, they figure that all of the good cars that run anywhere the speeds of 270 miles an hour are over 3,000 horsepower, as much as 3,250 in some cases.
It's a good start by both drivers, but quickly, Scott Coletta has problems. He smokes the tires, maybe too tight a clutch, maybe too much horsepower for that lane. Hard to say. But Mark Oswald, he has a nice 578 to his credit, 264 miles per hour, and that will advance him to the semifinal round.
Scott Coletta, the time barely worth talking about at a 9:88, 97 miles an hour. Kenny Bernstein. They lower the top on that machine, and the defending world champion is ready to face R.C. Sherman.
R.C. Sherman. Now, that's a name out of the past. Now, you notice they haven't started the car at the same time that Kenny Bernstein did. That's because Bernstein wants more heat, and the engine tuner on the Sherman car is not building the same type of temperature. Therefore, they start later and run with a cooler engine.
You know, the technique of building these engines, making them run, making them work, it's really become a black art lately. Let's go to Steve at the far end.
Mark, a lot of troubles on that one, but you did get the wind light. About all you can say for it.
Yeah, it come loose out in the middle again.
It almost sounded like something unhooked in the drivetrain. I guess it was just spinning tires.
Oh, yeah, when those new clutches come in and it spins the tires like that, it just freewheels.
How do you cure it?
Well, we're just going to have to back it back off again. That was kind of like we qualified, you know, it was playing on the strong side. We thought the track was good. Evidently, it's not going to hold that.
You back off the engine or you back off the clutch tension?
It looks like probably back off the clutch. You know, the air is good here and the motor's putting out a lot of power. It's kind of almost hard to detune it. You know, the Thunderbird makes a lot of power, and, you know, you hate to take it out of there, especially if you want to run with Kenny.
Great job.
Thank you.
Well, Don Garlits, you were talking about how much horsepower they had earlier. There's a good example, so much that now they really have to tune it down a little bit so the track can hold the revs.
And you can bet it's really tough to do that with a guy like Bernstein running 530s on you.
Great to see R.C. Sherman back in the professional ranks of drag racing after a couple of years away. From Germantown, Maryland, he's kind of a rent-a-driver this weekend for car owner Nick Bonifati. Well, there's nothing about rent-a-driver here. Kenny Bernstein owns this operation, lock, stock, and barrel, out of Dallas, Texas, and Newport Beach, California, depending on the weather.
Kenny Bernstein on the line now. The engine cackles, and look at Bernstein come off of that line. He's laying down a good one here now. Bernstein with a 539, 274, puts away R.C. Sherman. What great reaction.
4:33. I think that's the best reaction time ever. You couple that with a 5:39, it looked like two different car races to me.
That's the kind of time you see in pro stock. Back in the pit area, Frank Bradley's machine being worked on. He's getting ready to go into the semifinal round in Top Fuel. You see him setting a bearing in the rod end, squirts a little oil. It's a mixture. Everybody has their own secret. They call it massaging an engine, and you can see why they call it that as you rub the oil and the components right down into place. Let's go to Steve.
Well, Kenny Bernstein continues to pound out those 530s. 539 this time, Ken.
Yeah, I felt a little weaker that time. Wasn't quite as good. It's gotten a lot warmer, and we were a little safer that time than before. 33, you know, is on the verge of everything going good or bad for you. So we softened it just a taste, and now we'll probably have to come back the other way with it.
Did you adjust your driving at all when you saw Mark Oswald have all kinds of traction problems?
No, not at all. And these things, you just got to go up there and hit it and do your normal thing every time and hope that the guys have got it set up and it works for you that time.
2 more to go.
2 down and 2 to go.
Kenny Bernstein back to his car, moves into the semi-final round.
Of NHRA's premier event of the season, and much has been done to make it even better this year. For more about that, here's Paul with one of the people that has made it possible.
Well, Steve, here in the Florida sun, it gives us a great opportunity during a quiet time to talk with Dallas Gardner, the president of the National Hot Rod Association. Dallas, when we come here to Gainesville for the Gatornationals, one of the first things we notice this year is that the facility has really improved wonderfully.
Well, Paul, I think, as you know, that the Gator Nationals here in Gainesville Raceway is a very special place to the National Hot Rod Association, to our program. It has been probably the most consistent growth event on the tour, and each year there's a substantial amount of resources that go back in the facility. And what you see this year is about $1.5 million that have gone into additional parking, seating. We've got a mammoth grandstand over there that I think excites everyone in the sport, and it's really only probably a phase one of a three-phase program that will continue to expand in seating, parking, traffic, all those things.
You know, this is a good opportunity with you as the head of the organization to give us a little look ahead to what you expect out of this 1988 season. It's just getting more exciting and bigger.
Well, I think it is. We had a very special announcement last night where NHRA and Winston announced the first $1 million points fund in the history of drag racing. Interesting also is that that really puts that program in the same league as the NASCAR program and the kart program. It was a very, very impressive announcement and reaction by the competitors. The drag racing has worked very long and hard to achieve that status, and I think it's one of those milestones that is probably similar to when we see the first 300-mile-an-hour run. It's just a truly significant step, and I think that's indicative, though, of the general feeling of other sponsors in the sport, certainly of the racetrack owners and operators. One of the commitments that has been made for 1988 in terms of facility improvement and investment in facility, among the 16 national event sites, there will be over $18 million put into those facilities this year.
That's absolutely incredible. Thank you. Dallas Gardner, president of NHRA. Steve?
Don Garlits with $150,000 at seasoned in to the Top Fuel World Champion. Kind of makes you wish you had a race car out there.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it sure does, Steve. That's the kind of numbers I like to see for the sport.
Here is Mike Dunn, the only funny car driver to ever exceed 280 miles per hour. Sounds unbelievable, but it is true. And he is up against the defending Motorcraft Gator Nationals champion, Don the Snake Prudhomme.
I'll tell you, when you talk about knowing the sport and knowing how to win, this four-time world champion perhaps knows almost as much as Don Garlits. He really knows how to read a track, how to prepare a car. We spent some nice time back in his pit area with him, just watching him measure out fuel, get everything ready to go. He's really a hands-on guy.
Mike Dunn, a machinist in Ontario, California, and semi-professional funny car driver. He'd love to do it full-time again. Don the Snake Prudhomme, longtime resident of Granada Hills, California, with his wife Lynn and his daughter Donna. And elaborate on what Paul was saying about the Snake. He's track savvy.
Yes, he is. He's got the experience to win the race, but he's facing Mike Dunn. And I'll tell you what, that Mike Dunn comes from a long line of racers. I used to race his dad, Jim Dunn, in a dragster years ago.
All right, it is Mike Dunn, the world's fastest funny car driver. Machine owned by Joe Pisano and has an engine block, the JP1, created by Pisano. A different sort of engine block than Don Prudhomme has, who runs the Keith Black equipment. Let's take a look at the tree. The Snake is ready, waiting for Mike Dunn. Dunn doesn't hold him up, moves right in. They lead together. Mike Dunn, Don Prudhomme. Prudhomme with a bit of an edge. Prudhomme extends the lead. It is Don Prudhomme, 542, 269 miles per hour.
Don Prudhomme's career best. Will he be tickled when the crew hands him that time slip, 5:42? Well, he'll feel like he's got a chance in this race again for the second year in a row.
Back at the starting line, our final pair in round number 2 of Funny Car, as Jim Head will face Tom Hoover. Head moves up, ready for his burnout, lays the power down. And in the far lane, the Showtime machine of Tom Hoover. Now, he qualified 9th. Moved into the second round when John Force broke on the line. So Tom Hoover is in this round as a result of that luck that he was granted in the first round. He faces Jim Head. Steve?
Well, a great starting line lead, coupled with a 5:42, gave you a pretty good margin of victory over Mike Dunn, Snake.
Yeah, well, I guess we're starting to catch on to it. You know, it's a new car, and things are just starting to work out pretty good for it.
Gainesville Raceway has made you a lot of money over the years.
Yes, it has, but I'm telling you, they're playing hardball out there. You know, Bernstein with his 33 and a 39, and we just sneak up a little bit more on. I think we can give him a run for his money.
You've got lane choice going into the semis.
Yes, good. I'm looking forward to it.
Us too.
I'll tell you, Gainesville has been very good to Don Prudhomme. He has won 5 different times here.
And here's a couple of competitors who would be satisfied with just one win ever here. Tom Hoover and Jim Head. Tom Hoover out of Maple Grove, Minnesota, a family operation. His father in his 80s still wrenches on the car. Jim Head, Columbus, Ohio, owns a very successful engineering firm, and drag races really is a diversion to get away from the pressures of business. But he's won 3 NHRA national events, including the U.S. Nationals. Tom Hoover, he knows that he's been lucky to get this far. He hopes to win this one on ability and horsepower, but it may not. Oh, some problems with Jim Head in the near lane. It is Tom Hoover. What happened to Head, do you think, Don?
Well, something happened, and it's just that normal drag racing deal, and Hoover's luck is holding out, and he goes into the semifinals.
And with not much of a number, a 6.06, and that is easily going to give lane choice to world champion Kenny Bernstein. The other half of the semifinals, we will find Mark Oswald up against Don the Snake Prudhomme. That could be a real beauty.
Back in Mark Oswald's pit area, they work on the clutch, tighten down the head bolts. In fact, Mark Oswald himself works on the car, getting ready for the semifinal round. We'll be back with top fuel action in just a moment.
Raceway, the Motorcraft Gatornationals, and these fans are up and ready for the semifinals of Top Fuel Eliminator. As a matter of fact, Don Garlits, Paul Page, and I, Steve Evans, we're also pretty ready for this because we have got a tremendous contrast. Bobby Baldwin, his first ever drag race in Top Fuel since getting his license, up against Joe Amato, and he bought that car from Amato.
Yeah, that's why I never sold my cars. I could always recognize them, even when they changed the paint, Steve.
So you never wanted to race the machines that you crafted, huh? They might come back to bite you?
They always came back to bite you because they always seemed like those old cars ran better for the other guys than they did for me when I was last running them.
I got to give credit to Lance Larson, the crew chief for Bobby Baldwin. He has put this whole operation together with some pretty sparse funds, and he constantly encourages Baldwin. Says, don't worry about leaving yet. Don't worry about reaction times. Let's worry about how to drive the car, how to leave the starting line. Lance deserves some of this credit, and Bobby Baldwin was quick to give it to him. Well, Baldwin beat Shirley Muldowney in the previous round when Shirley broke. Will his luck continue?
Well, I don't know. Amato is a really strong racer, and he doesn't cut you much water.
Amato is in control of this one all the way. He goes to the semis much to the relief of Tim Richards, whom you just saw, but not a strong number. 5:31 at 2:42. Amato must feel like he could have got a lot quicker than that.
You can bet that Tim Richards, looking up at the scoreboard and seeing that time, knows he's got a lot of work cut out for him, Steve, in the pits, because that is not a good time. Something happened to that car.
Look at this long yellow machine. Eddie Hill, 288 miles per hour, Paul, and you know he's still trying to back it up.
Well, he'd like not only to get the record, but the 200 points that go along with it. He needs to run at least 285.85 miles an hour. Now, the current record belongs to the man in the other lane, Frank Bradley, set at this very same meet. So Eddie Hill would really love to see something above 285.8. At the far end, Steve is with the first of our two finalists.
Well, Joe Amato, did you back it down just a little bit for the rookie? It only ran a 5:31. By your standards, not very quick.
I see it did something dumb. It left real good and it went about half track, and then about 800-900 feet, something went away because this car slowed down pretty noticeable. So I got a little nervous. I thought he might come around me, but here we are in the final again. I guess that's all that counts. We'll have to go back and see what happened. Something malfunctioned. It should have ran faster.
Okay, well, let's hope it gets smart for that final round.
Yeah, we'll have to take it to school.
Joe Amato just may have a lot of work to do. Now, Eddie Hill, Frank Bradley, two very fast men. Don Garlits, what do you think?
I'm going to have to go with Eddie Hill because he ran the 5:08 earlier, and I just think the performance is in his side of the ring over there. I mean, his car is running good. He hasn't been having a lot of trouble.
There's something wrong at Eddie Hill's car. Look at the back.
Yes, there is. They're working on that car. This could be problems for Hill. This might be a free ride for Bradley if they don't get that car fixed. You can imagine the stress that's on Hill right now. Oh, my goodness, he almost runs over his crewman.
It looked like it was maybe stuck in gear.
Yes, I'm sure it was. The reverser was giving trouble.
Here is Eddie Hill pulling to the starting line of the near lane. Frank Bradley, far more driving experience on the asphalt quarter mile than Eddie Hill.
Eddie Hill, a lot of stress on him now. He doesn't know whether the car was right or not.
Well, that answers that question. the quickest elapsed time in the history of drag racing. 5.06, 279 miles per hour. The bearded gentleman, Buzzy Carter, who almost got run over, deserves some credit for this one. Frank Friendly smokes the tire. Eddie Hill rotates the earth.
I'll tell you what, for a man to have went through what he just went through on the starting line, not knowing whether that car was going to make a good run or not, and then do everything right, I tell you, my hat's off to him.
You know, maybe he just got scared enough and dumped the clutch fast enough. Eddie Hill will now move into the final round where he will face Joe Amato. And Hill has the lane choice.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce to you Mr. Eddie Hill of Wichita Falls, Texas, the quickest man in the history of drag racing at 5.06.
Ah! 06.
06. That's a new national record.
Weight backs it up.
That's right.
Faster and quicker than anybody's ever gone.
Ever.
All in the same race. I can't believe it. Thank you, Super Shops and Pennzoil, for giving me the stuff to do it with. Jeez,
Now,
what?
you got one more round. Maybe you'll back up that speed, too.
We still got a shot at it, don't we?
Only 275 this time, Eddie. Where'd the speed go?
Oh. Huh, I don't know. Maybe it got there too quick to build up any speed, huh?
Oh, boy, what a final this is going to be.
So we were looking more for him to back up the top speed, and he runs the fastest ET ever. Here comes Buzzy Carter and the rest of the crew. R.C. Hill, boy, are they happy about that. They have a chance to actually leave this event with both the ET and the top speed record.
Well, Paul, soon this celebration must cease. They've got to get to work to race Joe Amato in the final. Speaking of work, no one does it harder or better than Dale Armstrong, the crew chief for Kenny Bernstein. That funny car is being put in prime condition for the semifinals to come. Stay with us. We'll be back to Gainesville Raceway.
Gainesville, Florida, a record crowd enjoying the brand new facilities here at the Motorcraft Gatornationals, NHRA Drag Racing. I'm Paul Page with Steve Evans and Don Garlits. And we are taking a look at the funny car of Don Prudhomme as he rolls back, ready to face Mark Oswald.
Don Garlits, Don Prudhomme comes off a career best in the earlier round at 5:42. A confidence builder?
Yes, it is. He's definitely working on that car, trying to get the ET narrowed down. You know, the Kenny Bernstein has set the pace for these funny cars today, and that's what everybody's looking to, those low 530s.
All right, it is Oswald in the near lane, Prudhomme over in the far lane. Neither driver wants to hold the other one up. They don't want to build too much heat in these cars. They're away first, Prudhomme with traction problems. It is Mark Oswald who figured it out. Car owner Paul Candies loves a 544. 270 miles per hour in the heat of the day. That's maybe all this asphalt will take.
Well, you can see what they're doing there. Mark Oswald has not changed his car dramatically from the previous round, where Prudhomme is looking ahead to the final with whoever's going to win, and he probably figures it's B. Bernstein. And so he puts the power to it, but the Gainesville track will not hold it.
So Don the Snake Prudhomme lights up the back end and goes away. Mark Oswald goes into the final round of funny car. Will he face this man, Kenny Bernstein, or will it be the man that Bernstein is about to race, Tom Hoover?
Well, Paul, if you want to bet on Tom Hoover, I'll take some of that.
Boy, Don Garlits, a man accustomed to winning. Let's go to the far end now and Steve Evans.
Well, Mark, you're going to make whoever wins this next race work for lane choice, a 544.
Yeah, we finally got it calmed down enough in the middle, and it went down through there. You know, that's what we've been waiting for.
Good speed, 270?
Yeah, it's been running good speed all weekend. You know, we're kind of on to a new thing there, and hopefully it'll bring us a little more speed. This new Thunderbird body's real aerodynamic and works good for us.
Lane choice not a big factor. It doesn't appear to be.
No, in fact, we were kind of hoping we got put over in the left. We've had a little better luck there.
See you then.
Thank you.
So Kenny Bernstein, trying to get lane choice, will have to get under a 544. That certainly is what he has on his mind. As Tom Hoover backs up, slides into the staging lights alongside of Kenny Bernstein on the near side. Bernstein rolls his car forward. Buster Crouch, the starter, looks over at Tom Hoover, ready to make sure that both cars are safely in the lights and ready to run. Who will go up against Mark Oswald? That is about to be determined.
Now, we saw Don Prudhomme smoke the tires. Mark Oswald, however, went right down to the 544, and Bernstein is gone like a rocket, but Hoover's car stands right up on in. That was an unbelievable situation. Bernstein, oh my, that's a world record, a national record, a galactic record. 531, and he already has the backup of the 533. What happened to Tom Hoover, Don Garlits?
Well, it looked to me like he trembled the tires just a little bit, lifted, stepped back on it. Everything was hooked up, and the car went into this gigantic wheel stand, allowing Kenny Bernstein to just charge on down.
Kenny Bernstein, with the world record, will have lane choice over Mark Oswald in the final round as Tom Hoover raises it up on one left rear wheel. Let's go down and talk with Kenny Bernstein now.
Kenny Bernstein enjoying one of the finest days of drag racing any funny car pilot has ever had. Kenny, are you ready? A 531.
Oh, my goodness me. That's phenomenal. I never would have thought that could happen. It's come so far, so fast in the last couple of years, and I'll tell you, the Budweiser Quaker State Buick's really on the key today. I just hope it's got one more in it.
You know, you saw Eddie Hill's top fuel number up on the board, that 506. You knew the air was good, the track was good.
It cooled off a little, like we talked a while ago, Steve. You said it was a little warm, and now it's cooled a little bit. I don't know what's going to happen the next round because it's going to get a little cooler, but it sure made it nice.
You know, I told Mark Oswald he was making you work for lane choice, and you out-ET'd him by about 13 hundredths.
Well, you can't take anything from that motorcraft, Mark Oswald. Believe me, they'll be right there. It's the battle of the red cars again, Steve, and we'll have to be on top of our toes to be there.
Okay, see you then.
So as the temperature drops here in Florida, Kenny Bernstein hopes that will help. In the meantime, over in the Eddie Hill pit, they are one happy crew. They say the motor is fine. They're ready to go drag racing. We'll be back with more in a minute. On Joe Amato's pit. Now remember, his motor seemed to soften in his last run. Well, we sent Steve Evans out to do some investigative reporting, and he's found something out. Steve?
Crew Chief Tim Richards has already found out what made Joe Amato's car dumb. Take a look at this. This is the supercharger manifold. This is what is called a burst plate. NHRA requires that be in there. If a supercharger backfires, instead of blowing it up off the manifold and having a big fire, hopefully a lot of the pressure is released right through here. It separates as we see this burst plate. Now, this was in the manifold on Joe's run. They only had about 30 pounds of blower pressure. These aren't supposed to open up like that to 190 pounds. But it's what they call the tin can effect. When you're on the throttle, it wants to push it out. When you get off the throttle, the vacuum sucks it in. And they feel that working it back and forth ultimately causes them to separate. It's something that may have to be changed more often, but they're about $85 a piece, so you really don't want to do it every run.
Now, on the other hand, you don't want an $85 item to keep you out of a championship.
More times than not, Paul, these cheap parts have kept you from winning a race. You know, you watch the big stuff, and the little stuff sometimes gets by you.
Well, there's not very many $85 parts left of these race cars anymore. That's a pretty cheap one this day and age.
Yes,
well,
it is.
There is Bruce Allen in about a $100,000 pro stock car, and he is up against another Chevrolet Joe Lapone. These are both Beretta cars. You say, wait a minute, my Beretta is front-wheel drive. Well, one of the few concessions NHRA allows in pro stock as far as the design is concerned is to move the drivetrain, the rear differential, to the back of the automobile. We're still a little bit afraid of trying a front-wheel drive pro stocker, right, Don Garlits?
You bet you are.
You know, for a road racing car, theoretically, the best place to apply power is in the front. Why not on a drag racer?
Because of the weight transfer of the vehicle. When you leave the line, the front wheels will just spin violently.
All right, it is Bruce Allen in the near lane, Joe Lapone in the far lane. As far as driving ability, you'd have to rate these two equal. They're pre-staged. Finally, they both move in. There's the pro start. Lapone carries the wheels high in the air, but it is Bruce Allen with the muscle. Oh, and that is the number he wanted, a 740 at 188 miles per hour. Lapone at a 772 was no match, 183 miles per hour.
So Bruce Allen goes into the final round, and he will face the winner of the match between Butch Leo and Kenny Delco. And this is Kenny Delco as he runs his burnout. Butch Leo sits over in the far lane. Leo is a good technical driver. He's one of the best leavers in pro stock, where you have to be good at that. He's got a lot of track savvy, and he's a good technician.
Yes, he is. He's one of the better pro stock drivers in the business, in my opinion.
So Butch Leo on the line versus Kenny Delco. Let's go to the far end once again, and Steve Evans.
Bruce is 740. That's as good as anybody's running in pro stock.
Yeah, that wasn't a bad run. Our Levi Garrett Chevrolet got down through there not in pretty good shape. It shook a little bit last time, so he took a little bit off it, and we got down through there pretty good.
See you in the final round.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So back at the starting line, Butch Leal, Kenny Delco, they both line up. That is Leal on the far side, Delco on the near side.
You know, Paul, it bears repeating. We've talked about hole shots today. A hole shot means that one driver simply got away from the line quicker than the other. The lanes are independently timed. So you may run 5 seconds in one lane and I may run 6 in the other, but if I left 6 or better ahead of you, then I'm still going to get there first. A hole shot is simply one driver reacting quicker than the other. If you react too quick, the Christmas tree will go to red and you're automatically disqualified. Leal in the far lane, the Pontiac, the Beretta in the near lane. It is Leal away first by the scantest of margins, only 1/100th of a second. It is Butch Leal. There's a hole shot. Perfect. The 741 to a 740. The 41 for Leal defeats the 40 of Kenny Delco. Wow.
And that's exactly what you were trying to explain there, Steve. The green light comes on, but the timer doesn't start until those wheels pass through the light. Now, in this case, Butch Leal ran slower, but because he got away first, he won the race.
This is the Butch Leal traditional way of winning these races. He leaves them at the starting line, and that's the name of the game.
Let's go down to the far end now. Steve is with Butch Leal.
What a drag race that was. Did you know who won? You ran a 41, he ran a 40, so obviously you left first.
Well, I didn't know, and rolled over to high gear, and we have a manifold on the car now that lets it ET well, but it's not too much speed. And he started to make a little move, and all of a sudden I get into the first light, and I'm saying, come on, baby. I looked over, and we were just neck and neck. I did not know who won that race. That was that close.
You've lost lane choice to Bruce Allen's 740.
Well, I'm sure I'm going to have the left lane. I've been in it all day, and we tried both lanes earlier in the track. I shook in both lanes. That time I put a new set of tires on. It was better and picked up 400 or 500. So it's a gunfight again. Like I said, Steve, I got up earlier this morning and greased my holster and hope my gun come out fast, and obviously that time it worked pretty well.
See you in a bit.
Okay, thank you.
So Butch Leal expects that he'll be pushed into the far lane because Bruce Allen has lane choice. As we go to the Pro Stock Final, it will be Allen versus Leal. That and more action coming up from the Motorcraft Gatornationals in Gainesville, Florida, right after this. Florida for the NHRA Motorcraft Gatornationals. I'm Paul Page with Steve Evans and Don Garlits. And back in the Candies and Hughes pits, they're making final preparations on Mark Oswald's car as they prepare to meet Kenny Bernstein in the funny car finals. Leonard Hughes is the crew chief, and he is now with Steve Evans. Steve, what are they going to do to beat Bernstein?
Leonard, you and I talked a couple of months ago, and you thought you maybe had Mr. Bernstein caged up. Well, he has escaped. What do you do now to try to get him in this final round? He's got such a performance edge with those world records.
Well, we just try to get it hooked in the middle of the racetrack. That's the biggest problem. He's got it figured out, and we don't. And that's the way it is right now.
No idea what he's doing that you're not?
We have an idea, but, you know, it's too late to change now. We just have to go with what we have and try to step on it a little and see what happens.
Okay, it's cooling off. Is the track going to be better or worse?
I think it'll be better.
That may solve the problem partially.
It might help us.
Good luck.
Thank you.
You know, Leonard Hughes won the inaugural Gatornationals in funny car. On the line, though, Pro Stock. This is the Pro Stock Final. That is Bruce Allen, ready to face Butch Leal.
Butch Leal and Bruce Allen. That's a pair to draw to, all right. And you can bet that it's going to be who gets off the line first is probably who's going to win this race, because these cars are almost identical in elapsed times.
Pro Stock across the board, a very evenly matched category. These two cars are probably about as even as they come. So it will be Bruce Allen on the near side, Butch Leal on the far side. Both of them watch the light. The revs come up, they inch forward, and now they watch for a yellow and then a green, and there it is. They're running.
An obvious hole shot by Butch Leal. The grease in the holster has worked again.
Oh, but Bruce Allen powers by the win. Buddy Morris and David Weir, who owned the car, celebrating a 736. But that's what it took, Don Garlits, to beat Leal's 741.
Watch Leal as he leaves the line. obviously out in front of Bruce Allen, but he doesn't stay there all that long as Bruce Allen's power pulls right up on him and powers by him. I don't think that Leo was ready for a 736.
Bruce Allen out of the Chevy Beretta, the Gatornationals champion. Butch appeared to leave first, but you'll like this number, 736. Horsepower prevails.
The rear Morrison guys make some power. I'm telling you, if it wasn't for that, Butch, I mean, what a guy you're racing. The guy goes out there and leaves on me almost every time. I mean, you need a new driver. We said before, more power or a new driver, and they gave me some power, so I got some reprieve.
The only problem with you beating Butch is then he just goes and punishes you on the golf course. You guys play
He just got done doing that here. We went out and played Tuesday or Wednesday, and he just...
40-some-odd holes?
40-some, played 42 holes, and he was 2 over par for 40 holes. Well, he just buries me.
You came up a few strokes short here today. Congratulations. You won it over a very tough competitor.
Well, he is a tough guy. Thank you.
You betcha. About 3/4 of a mile away in the staging lanes is Don Garlits. Let's see if we can get a prediction from Big Daddy on the next final we're going to see.
As we go into the funny car final, we see one of the most remarkable performances in the history of the sport as Kenny Bernstein has set 2 national records in ET in the same day, a 5:33 and a 5:31. What does a guy do against a performance like that? I can't imagine what must be going through Mark Oswald's mind right now as he only has a 5:44 to go into this final round. Unless Bernstein does something awfully wrong, he's a sure winner.
So Mark Oswald will face Kenny Bernstein, and Eddie Hill will face Joe Amato. The finals in Funny Car and Top Fuel coming up next.
Are lengthening here at Gainesville Raceway in north central Florida, and the temperature has cooled off. The Buick Riata fiberglass replica body has been lowered over the tube chassis of the race car owned and driven by Kenny Bernstein. And one more time today, the world champion will blaze the tires on the burnout. And Don, right now you need a good burnout.
Steve, you certainly do. The pavement is very cold now at Gainesville, and the only heat that's going to be generated is what the driver gets when he spins the tires.
Well, and just idling into the water is the Thunderbird-bodied car of Mark Oswald, Cleves, Ohio, the Team Candies and Hughes out of the swamps of Des Alleman, Louisiana. And let's look at Oswald's burnout technique. A little bit stronger even than Bernstein's was. A little more throttle, a little deeper into that throttle. The crowd is just mesmerized. As you can see, there is no one sitting down for this classic confrontation. Right now, back in the staging lanes, Don Garlits with his predictions on what we can expect in the Top Fuel race to come in just a moment or two. Don?
Eddie Hill, the finalist here at the Gatornationals 1988. You're looking at the fastest and quickest car in the history of drag racing. 5:06, 288 miles an hour. Now, the 5:06 is a national record, but Eddie would love to back up that 288. So, you know, there's a lot of pressure on him right now. He wants to win the race. He wants to back up this speed record. And a car that can run 5:06 is very subject to smoking the tires. Where on the other hand, Joe Amato, who only ran 5:31, he can't hardly make a mistake at this point because nobody's ever outrun a 5:06 up to now. So he's got to do everything. If he leaves too early in red light, what difference does it make? If he smokes the tires because Richard's put too much power in it, what difference does it make? He's got to run below 5:06. And, brother, that's going to take a lot of doing.
My man, Big Daddy, who's not afraid to speak his mind. I'm kind of glad that Mark Oswald at this moment doesn't know that Don Garlits has picked Kenny Bernstein here.
The Candies and Hughes machine of Mark Oswald inches up to the line now. On the other side, Dale Armstrong watches as Kenny Bernstein manipulates the controls and moves his machine into place. This is the final and funny car. The power comes up. Bernstein focused on that mic. Look at Bernstein come out as Mark Oswald goes away almost immediately. Kenny Bernstein goes onto the win with a 5:35, 278 miles an hour.
A very remarkable time for a cold racetrack because if you'll notice in the instant replay, the cars leave the line almost identically together. Oswald is starting to suffer from a little tire slippage initially, and even Bernstein moves over to the left slightly, showing us that the track was a little on the slick side because of the coldness. The smoke comes up from Oswald, the race is over, and Bernstein is the Gatornationals champion.
Well, Bernstein's machine sits quiet now at the far end as he walks over to shake hands with Mark Oswald. Kenny Bernstein, the new champion.
I overheard a conversation in Kenny Bernstein's pits before the final round, and Dale Armstrong said, let's not try to set any records. Let's run about a 5:35. 5:35.
Oh, that's good. That's just what it wanted to do. It was a handful. It was a little loose all over it down through there. No tire shake this time, but it was moving around.
It was a handful on the 31 run.
Well, Steve, you know as well as I do, when you're running on those records, it's on the edge. You can go one way or the other, but you know, you take the Budweiser Quaker State Buick Mac Tool car, and we're in there, and that's what all counts today.
Well, when they're moving around like that, they're actually turning the tire. Even you don't see any smoke. They're black tracking, as you call it.
That's right. They're turning the tire. In this case, this time, it was not only turning the tire, it was babbling the front end up and off the ground. So that's why it was really a handful. It was just kind of dancing and dicing around over there. But Dale Armstrong and the crew, they did it again.
Congratulations, Gator National champion.
Hey, it's great. And Mark Oswald and those guys at Motorcraft and Candies do a heck of a job over there.
Well, it's never boring when the red cars get together.
Kenny Bernstein, his first win of the new season. One very happy man. Well, one more final to be run. Will it be this man, Joe Amato, as he backs up in the line? His wife out in front, putting him exactly where the machine needs to be. But the real question is the yellow machine on the near side. Eddie Hill, he already has top ET. If he can run a 285.85, then he can back up his 288-mile-an-hour run for the top speed. But of course, what he's focused on is the championship.
They never took this engine apart, Don Garlits. Never took the cylinder heads off it. Is that a mistake?
Well, in my camp, it'd be a mistake, but maybe Eddie Hill knows something I don't know.
We're about to find out. Both are in the lights. Eddie Hill launches out as Joe Amato goes away. Eddie Hill across the line, and Eddie Hill wins it. His first Top Fuel victory with a 5:21, 268. Now, he didn't back up the top speed of 288, but I don't think that matters at all. Look at that crew. Boy, are they happy.
Watch Joe Amato as he leaves the line. The flames come up on the car, and he was out on Hill when something went away, giving the championship automatically to Eddie as he storms to victory on the track. Notice the car moving around. It was a little slick, and the 5:21 backs up the fact that the track was just not there to support a 5:06 run again.
This will be a day Eddie Hill will never forget. He has won his first NHRA National Championship event, the Gator Nationals. You've gone faster than any man before you, quicker than any man or woman before you. It's got to feel incredible.
Won my first race. Here I am, 52 years old, and finally won a race. Can you believe it?
It ran in the 520s and the 260s, but who cares, right?
Yeah, I had to pedal it on that run. The car got bad out of shape, but I had already seen Joe disappear, so I thought he had trouble. So anyway, what a deal. Oh, how sweet it is.
You know, for a guy who has called himself the Texan, a lot of pride in your home state. Did you know that every pro category was just won by Texans, all three of them?
No, I wasn't aware of that. Far out. Excellent, excellent.
A happy crew arrives as Eddie Hill is about to celebrate his first Top Fuel national victory. Don Garlits, always great to have you on board.
Thank you, Paul. It's really been exciting being here.
So for Don Garlits and Steve Evans, I'm Paul Page. So long from the Gator Nationals in Gainesville, Florida.
The executive producer for American Sports Cavalcade is Harvey M. Palish. Produced and directed by John B. Mullen. Promotional consideration provided for and a fee paid by the Style Auto World Championship Team, the nation's premier source of fast lane fashions. Style Auto, the champion's choice for the style of your life. Woo! The American Sports Cavalcade is a presentation of Diamond P Sports.